Today from the global lane, Chinese genocide against the Uyghurs.
Hundreds of thousands of Uyghur and other Turkic women have been sterilized, over 3.7 million babies forcibly being aborted.
One of Mike Pompeo's final actions as U.S. Secretary of State was to designate China's treatment of ethnic Uyghurs and Turkic people as genocide. The Biden administration also supports that designation. So what does it mean? What is next? Well, under terms of the 1948 United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, the designation requires nations to take action.
Starting about 2017, millions of people were thrown into what China calls re-education camps, but what are actually concentration camps, where they are forced to denounce their ethnic and religious identity, forced starvation, forced medication. Both men and women have been raped in these facilities. The Chinese government is harvesting the organs of select Uyghur and other Turkic prisoners, and hundreds of thousands of Uyghur and other Turkic women have been sterilized by the Chinese government, in addition to over 3.7 million babies forcibly being aborted by the Chinese government. And all of these constitute as genocide as defined under the UN Genocide Convention and as defined under the Elie Wiesel Genocide Prevention Act and Section 1091 of the U.S. Code on genocide.
Well, I want to talk about that forced sterilization again in a minute, but I know you've told us before about those concentration camps and prisons, and you have a map where you found close to 400 in total, where at least you say 3 million Uyghurs are being detained by the Chinese. So tell us a little bit more about that and the forced labor and the re-education they're enduring.
So initially, the Chinese government began to send millions of people in the concentration camps to, forcibly brainwash them, while also, killing select number of them for their organs. However, in recent years, especially with the coronavirus pandemic, China has begun to shift to using them as slave labor. In fact, over 500,000 people were forced to pick cotton during the coronavirus pandemic, whereas millions are still, working in slave labor factories, producing, products for companies like Apple, Nike, Costco, and dozens of others.
I know that Twitter recently actually locked the account of the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. after it tweeted that Uyghur women had been emancipated by government policy from being, quote, baby-making machines. Your reaction to what happened?
This was a dehumanizing tweet, and we are, happy that Twitter has blocked or barred the Chinese embassy from from using its account. However, despite this, there are numerous other Chinese state-run accounts or state-run affiliated media accounts that are continuing to spread propaganda dehumanizing the Uyghur and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan.
Okay, Sally, so we have that genocide designation now. What should the Biden administration do? How should the U.S. respond?
One thing that we're urging is that the Justice Department implement Section 1091 and prosecute China's diplomats in the United States, including its ambassador, Su Tiankai, for genocide, while also urging other countries, especially American allies, to recognize the atrocities of genocide and to take this to the UN Security Council and urge the UN to uphold its genocide convention. There needs to be real strong actions that need to be taken to stop this.
There is a lot of Chinese involvement in Middle East nations, especially Muslim ones. So how come your fellow Muslims aren't speaking out about this? I'm thinking in particular those in the Middle East who are working deals with the Chinese. Your thoughts?
Again, they're all working, for their own economic interests. So they're ultimately turning a blind eye and in many cases selling Uyghurs to the Chinese government. Turkey, in fact, is has an extradition treaty with China, and they are deporting Uyghurs, and there are rumors that they're about to deport even more Uyghurs in exchange for the coronavirus vaccine from China.